44 points, and he's target at the moment what could be a record-breaking race victories, and also in terms of and there are a lot for typically very well at this location. Cast your mind to Saturday here. Gisbergen is right by my side here in number 96. Was hounding McLaughlin on the way home, and I expect that Red Bull are going to be quite strong again this week. But Reynolds has also got tremendous at this race, so we'll keep an eye on. So elimination qualifying format in shootout on Sunday. I know a while. A couple of us this week. He's about right here. Other news: Richie Stanaway is out with a problem that with his neck, and there is the Dunlop car of Nick Percat. A couple of key milestones also this weekend. Kelly 150th round. Tim Slade is also going to enjoy his 150th round. No driver has ever claimed the Triple Crown. Darwin, we've been coming here for more than it's quite extraordinary that that is the case. In terms of our racetrack, another one in this place, and it is a beautiful little racetrack. Wide open, 5% of the lap, thanks to Australia. Now the lap speed average is just under 100 kilometres per hour, just on 65 kilometres. The feature of this race is that front straight. It opens. It is around about 800 metres, so close to a kilometre there, where the car and 70 kilometres per hour. We always see great action in one as well. Second gear left-hander, mid-corner speeds about 85 kilometres an hour. It's a hot spot through 2 and 3. A real point on the racetrack there where we've seen a number of issues, including Lee Holdsworth back in 16. 5, second gear corner at 95 kilometres an hour. There is that speed I mentioned. The trees up there is a beautiful place to watch them. And then through 8 and 9, there's a little seam in the road, and 10, which catches a little area outside turn 10, and then plunging down towards the final. In total terms, that is a Valley Raceway. Well, the lap record was achieved here. The qualifying record is held by, and the practice record is also held. So have a look at the heat on the road there. At the moment down here is blazing 9 degrees, and as I heard you talking to Jess, temperature management this weekend, as always in Hidden Valley, is going to be a huge part of the story.
It certainly is, Neil. Good morning. And it's that year on year, although it's always the place to change in terms of characteristics, huge differences with these negotiate turn 1. And if there's a little headwind, it could be more like 265 or 6. If it's a tailwind, it's more like 275. And we're on board with car 17 of what a year. You know, the sort of we've witnessed, not just this year, but in one pole, 1 win and 4 podiums. He had a very, very bad AP. David Reynolds now around the outside of it. one of the moves of the year. We love the start. This is the play 450 metres from the start line down turn 1. The 5 or with wins, including the Sunday of 2018 here last year. It's at 4 poles. So he's always been very, very fast. He likes the flow. He's got really nice car control. And he's very good at brakes. This is the first part of the braking phase. And part of the drive around here is to try to stop the phase of braking. And then, as you
You step from outside back into the commentary box and you cast your mind back a couple of weeks ago when we were in northeastern Victoria. Look at that scene in the background, gorgeous clear blue sky. Chaz Mostert on the run into turn 1, car number 55. Let's say a very good morning and welcome now to Andrew Jones in pit lane.
Very good morning to you too, Neil and Mark and everybody watching at home. Heard you guys talking about the temperature before. Can guarantee it's pretty roasting out here, but whenever we talk about hot ambient temperature, I'm always curious to know what the track temperature difference is between ambient and at the moment. We're seeing about 34 degrees track temp. So 7 odd degrees, 7, 8 odd degrees track temp difference. So pretty warm out here. I did have a look inside the Tickford garage there before and they've got their air conditioning unit set to 1 degree to try and offer up some respite from within that garage.
Thanks for the update from down in the pit lane there, Andrew. Temperature is going to be something that we talk about all weekend long. It's a real culture shock for everybody. And I think our focus often tends to be the driver or perhaps the temperature impact on the car. But one of the things that's not often spoken about is what happens through the whole garage, because you've got a whole team of people working on the cars. It manifests particularly in the pit stop, and where the cars are hot and difficult to work on at the best of times. When you add more temperature, that makes the task that much tougher once again. And you know, already early in the game, you walk up and down the pit lane here at the moment, you see some pretty stressed individuals who've already done pretty solid week's work leading into the event.
And especially in the early days when we first started coming here, there were people that would actually collapse in the garage, weren't there? There were actually mechanics and staff that were really struggling because you just don't know what to expect. And coming from, you know, the southern parts of Australia at this time of the year, it's a pretty sharp difference.
A pace check now. David Reynolds is the fastest. We've got 10 odd minutes gone in this session already out of 30 in total, so 1 minute 7.0. He's back in the pit lane. There's only actually about 5 or 6 cars that are active on the racetrack. Scott McLaughlin is one of them. He's currently in position number 2. There's only 3/100ths of a second between Reynolds and McLaughlin at the moment. Jamie Whincup is next. So McLaughlin, Whincup, Coulthard, Mostert, Van Gisbergen, they're all active on the racetrack. Everybody else has come back into the lane after an exploratory lap or two.
And I always look for this, the first run. So Reynolds on a 7.05, McLaughlin on a 7.07, and Whincup with a 7.10. There's 0.04 of a second as the cars first roll out, 0.04 of a second between the top 3 cars.
There was always a hallmark of the way in which you went about your professional motorsport was, what's it like out the gate? Maximum attack. Craig was the same. Within a couple of laps, you need to establish where you sit, and particularly in the modern era, with such little practice time and very little in the way of peripheral testing, you have to know very quickly what you're dealing with, and then you need to know what the recipe is to come up with a cure to whatever the problem may be. And that roadmap is increasingly complicated, and there's a lot of science that underpins coming up with those answers, which is a fascinating process. You've got 18.5 minutes remaining now in this session, and this is really the session where you've got to get all the heavy lifting done, because by the time you get to the next session, it dictates the way in which qualifying is going to unfold. Time now to welcome to the coverage Greg Murphy. Morning, young Greg.
Good morning, gentlemen. Hey, just on that term that comment you were making just a minute ago there, Crompo, about going out the gate and going hard straight away and learning that car. I just watched Whincup before just come in. He'd only done like, I think 2 laps. Came in straight into a camber change on the left rear of that car. So, again, getting a maximum read as early as they possibly can to get a direction with that car. And obviously, getting tyres up to temperature around here, not really too much of a problem.
That's exactly right.
That happens when they lift them out of the tyre tent out the back and put them on the hubs, I think, in that period. The 10 seconds of walking in the sunlight off the road is Nick Percat down here at 5 in the Dunlop car this weekend again.
And that's the nicest thing about the tyres weekend, is going from the truck to the car, because after they get on the car, they get tortured.
Another awesome shot here. This is over the right shoulder of Scott Pye. Gives you a bit of an indication of a couple of key things, what he's doing with his right foot, which is key, and what he's up to with his hands as well. And this little bit of the racetrack here is one of the real challenges. So that sequence to 9 and 10, and then running what is effectively down a hill into the final corner at 14. Knowing exactly where to place your car at 9, 10, 11, 12 is actually quite tricky. There are a few different theories involved in how you go about maximising that. See the data on the dash there? 6th gear, front and rear anti-roll bar positions, brake bias positions, lap time information, feeding it back into 2nd.
Nice.
Watching right foot. So it's as much a foot skill as it is a hand skill driving a race car. So flat through 2, 3 and 4, little throttle blip back to 2nd. Gingerly turning that car in, which suggests to me that it's probably a bit loose in the rear. So watch Scott change direction with the car. He's doing it very gently. Out of the hairpin at 6. All flat shifting with a little micro switch on the gear lever. And once the shift lights illuminate, Scott pulls that lever back without lifting the throttle. And the switch just interrupts the drive through the drivetrain briefly enough for it to be able to affect a smooth gear change. And this is very important, this run onto the pit straight with one gentle throttle progression that gets you to 6th. And if you can do that a metre earlier than whoever the person is that you're racing, it has a profound impact on the peak speed at the other end, which is wind affected. It is a headwind today. In general terms, it's an easterly blowing out there at the moment inside the Red Bull Holden Racing Team garage. Back to Greg.
Yeah, boys, just been in watching the Red Bull guys in here, and specifically Shane Van Gisbergen's car. It's been in here a couple of times and sat here for extended periods. When it came in earlier, they pulled the front splitter off. They made adjustments to the front bar that they attached the front splitter to. And I watched with interest. He went back out, did only another lap, and it's back in. They've changed that front splitter, and it's it's just been confirmed that they had a bit of flutter going on with that. We saw that last year comprehensively with quite a few cars down the end of the front straight, high speed, lots of downforce being put on the car under brakes, and they've just had to replace that front splitter on the 97. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if that changes when he goes back out.
And it's also extremely ride height critical, as you know, Greg, down there. So this is a straight that promotes that. This is the view. And we're on board Anton De Pasquale's car coming out of turn 7. Car's on the slide. In fact, he's just dropped the left of the car into the dirt there. So what I was impressed about when I saw this shot earlier in the year was it gives you a real understanding of the roll of the car, which you can see here. So look at all the air gap on the left-hand side at the moment as he's making that left-hand turn. But watch in particular the way in which the gap disappears under brakes into turn 1. Watch this. And the critical ride height between the front wing and the road, and the importance of the aero there. Bang. It's like closing the blinds at home, isn't it?
It's a great
And then all the roll. Yeah, and if you sit in one of these cars relative to your road car, folks, you would swear that there's no body roll in these cars, but there certainly is. Rihanna, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Crompo. I've strategically placed myself in front of a fan here at Boost Mobile Racing. Barry Rogers, unfortunately we saw Richie Stanaway having to withdraw from Winton due to an injury, and he's not racing here this weekend. What was the critical call that made him being unable to race here this weekend?
Yeah, look, after Winton, Richie went and had some further treatment with Dr. Carl and was tracking along really well, went back to New Zealand, right back in Melbourne late last week, and over the weekend just gave his neck a bit of a tweak, pulled a muscle, I suppose, again in his neck, and spoke to Dr. Carl on Tuesday, and look, he's had to seek some further treatment, a little bit more invasive than the first sort of treatment. And look, Richie really wanted to drive. We spoke to Dr. Carl. His advice was that it's best that he didn't. And look, it's a real shame. I mean, any professional sports person wants to go and do their trade. And I feel for him sitting at home watching, but we're all thinking about him and look forward to seeing him back at Townsville.
Do you think he'll be in for the rest of the year after this week, and is that the hope?
Yeah, for sure. Let's hope that. I think the treatment that he has had on Wednesday, as I say, is a bit more aggressive than what he had previously. So fingers crossed it'll be fine. So we're all thinking about you, Rich.
Absolutely. Shout out to Richie Stanaway at home. Thanks, Barry.
So pressure again this weekend on Chris Pither in car number 33, who just had to jump to attention last time out and leap in the seat. And he did a nice job. He's actually been here before and ended up with the best position of 11th, which was a fine performance. And the 150th round this weekend for Tim Slade, who's also had success at this racetrack in the Freightliner Alliance Parts, Brad Jones Racing Holden Commodore. Trap for young players. Two of the cars out of that squadron of 4 this weekend are yellow, so beware, folks.
Very true. So David Reynolds has improved that time that we spoke of earlier, that he did a low 7, first one into the 6s. So David's done a 6.78, just under 0.3 of a second faster than McLaughlin and Whincup. De Pasquale is 4th, Lee Holdsworth is 5th.
And putting those numbers in perspective, Mark, and you wouldn't expect Hollywood figures this early in the game, but the lap record per cat is a 6.5 from last year. Qualifying record is McLaughlin at a 5.6, and the practice record, which was done in 2017, that's a 5.5. What will also happen is, as the sun gets higher here and the UV goes up, it'll really hurt performance, but at the same time the cars will get better, the drivers will acclimatise better to the racetrack, and they'll also get better tyre quality on later in the day. So I'd be curious to see where they land in terms of pace. Mark Winterbottom is on screen, the Irwin Tools entry. And Frosty's also done very well here over the years. Been a little while between drinks for him, but 4 wins, 4 poles. The last of those victories was 2014. Shane Van Gisbergen's drive, I had a look at the highlights again from last year coming up this weekend, and his drive on the Saturday here last year was really impressive. In fact, with a little bit more time, he might have been able to torture Scott McLaughlin just that bit more. Jump on board with him now, give us a bit of an understanding of the behaviour and performance of this car. Braking area, turn 1.
Yeah, worked on the front straight, but very stiff.
That was Shane in the background, didn't actually
Worked
sit
on the front straight, and that was very stiff. So maybe they've got a roll bar change that he made. I saw him making a change when he was going down the straight. But that roll bar obviously doesn't do anything in a straight line. It's the effect it would have maybe in the final corner or somewhere else that they're looking for a change to the dynamics of the car and the roll rate. So the anti-roll bar there, those two levers on the left of Shane, the blue and the red levers are for front and rear sway bars or anti-roll bars.
He's had a couple of wins and a couple of pole positions here as well. 20 times he's finished in the top 10 here, so it's one of the tracks that he clicks with. He's,
remaining 2 or 3 more matches run.
and that's Grant McPherson, his engineer in the background, so you've got to look all the way down to 24th. He might improve on that in this lap, and he has now moved up into 17th position, up 7 spots. So he's just done a 1 minute 7.7. The benchmark number at the moment is a 1 minute 6.7. David Reynolds over Scott McLaughlin. Whincups back in the garage. Di Pasquale qualified 3rd here on Saturday last year. This is a place that he seems to run well with as well. So he's up into 4th place at the moment. Then there's a batch of cars that are still in the pit lane.
There's a bit of weirdness going on inside that car with the roll bars, because the way that he adjusted the bar on the way down the start-finish straight then, it actually looked like it had a big sort of over-centre moment in it. I think one of the things that you're going to see teams work on a lot is that now that the rear spring is a linear spring and the spring rule has changed. Now watch this. So as he comes onto the straight, he's got the bars set there. He comes onto the straight, makes a nice gear change, makes the bar bias change, another gear change. Now watch this. Bang. So that's really quite a big, it's a big movement, like an over-centre action, which you don't normally see that. You normally see really gradual little changes. Now, whether they've actually got a different actuator or a different method of adjustment on the base of that, I don't know, as Roland and David Couchy try to get across the fast lane in the pits safely.
He did go quicker on that lap, but it didn't improve his position mark. He still did 1 minute 7.7 as we go back and find Chaz Mostert on screen here. Now, a bit of news around him as well. Just recently, he did a demo at the Winter Nationals at Willowbank, a huge drag racing event just outside Ipswich, and he had a run up against Ben Bray. He lost. Yeah. No surprise. And it looked to me like he jumped the start fairly heftily there as well, but no doubt he needed to when you consider that the pace of the machine alongside, that funny car, can do an astonishing 320 kilometres per hour. Would you like to be sitting in that doing 320 clicks?
No.
So that's promoting the forthcoming event at Queensland Raceway. We're looking forward to visiting Ipswich in July.
I did have a joke with him yesterday afternoon when Jess was grilling him about his future and his contracts. But if he misses out on Tickford, he misses out on Penske, he misses out on BMW, he could be a drag racer.
And speaking of drag racing, Scott McLaughlin doing a bit of that. In fact, he's got some friends down there. So Shane Van Gisbergen, it's a Kiwi thing. Trying to get home. It is east. Larko would have no idea what I'm talking about because he hasn't been able to work out which way any of it is.
It's a long way east.
Reynolds is still the fastest from Di Pasquale now, so
here we go.
Penrite team are 1 and 2. And just as we were making remark about McLaughlin running down there, back comes Shane Van Gisbergen, and this is what it looked like from on board.
Have a look, there'll be something on the road here because you won't get 2 of them off the road at the same time. There's something there. Have a look. Might be just both of them as deep under brakes. That is not the glove box on fire. That left-hand side, that smoke. That's wheel lock. Shane can't get it turned in either, and they're basically going straight ahead so they don't destroy the left-hand front tyre.
Tell you what it could be. I didn't spot anything on the road. No, I just looked at the flags out the front, and the wind's actually dropped a bit. So they did have when I was standing out there before saying hi, it was quite breezy, but it doesn't look like it is out there at the moment as Whincup runs wide on the exit of turn 5 as well.
It's an off-trackathon at the moment, isn't it? For 3 of the best operators to all be off the road within half a lap.
I'm just trying to find that word in the dictionary, an off-trackathon. Can't find it. Here he is. Actually, just trickled off there quite gently. So there's that little lump in the road through 4, which unweights the front of the car, and this is what it looks like from on board. And right there, he's had a big catch. Blocked the rears when he fed back into second gear. 6 victories and 2 pole positions. The last win for Jamie was 2014. We jump straight on the radio to give the folks back in the garage a description of what just happened.
What do you think he would have said?
A couple of guesses. I might just keep to myself. Anton Di Pasquale throwing rocks at us here as well from position 2 at the moment. Fabian Coulthard just moved up into 9th position. Cam Waters and Scott McLaughlin are 3rd and 4th. So Reynolds, Di Pasquale, Waters, McLaughlin, Whincup, Holdsworth, Percat, Mostert, Coulthard and Slade. That's the 10. Greg.
It's going to be pretty interesting to watch what happens here with Red Bull Hot Racing Team. Both the cars back in the sheds now. And, as I said before, there was that issue. Not quite sure exactly what the detail was on it with that front splitter of Shane van Gisbergen. But, guys, we've seen Shane when his program, and when we say program, the practices don't go to plan, don't go to the plan that they've organised before the session. His temperament does seem to change a bit, and he has to play a bit of catch-up. He doesn't often recover when he has a bad first session. We've seen that before. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. A lot of changes going on again. Red Bull are doing massive changes again by the looks of it to Jamie Whincup's car, a lot going on there. But the highlight for me before was how much work was going on Scott McLaughlin's car. All through this year we've seen very minor little changes. Before they did a full damper change around the car and some other modifications. So they're working pretty hard at Shell V-Power too.
Thanks for the update, Greg. Just had an onboard shot there of Shane van Gisbergen as well, just wrestling with that rear anti-roll bar control in the cabin. So I suspect it might be stiff. And I think now trying to put 2 and 2 together, he's saying it's stiff in a straight line, which it shouldn't be. When the cars have got load on them, they've got roll on them, the bars are near impossible to shift. But they should be easy to shift in a straight line, so it might have been a remark around that. Into the pit lane comes McLaughlin from 4th position in car number 17, having ventured off the road down there at turn 1. He's on a 1:07 flat, near enough, so he needs to find 0.2 of a second. Sounds simple, not so easy from a scientific standpoint. Coulthard's sitting in 9th position at the moment. Here's an onboard view of what happened to him, and he's also made a mistake down here at 1. I reckon that's what it might be down there, Mark. So not a lot of breeze out there at the moment. So we've seen front-running drivers who've got a very good grasp of their cars and no doubting capability, just overstepping the mark in the braking area down there at 1. So the top 6 cars at the moment are all back in the garage. Lee Holdsworth is 6th off the back of season best performance for him at Winton. Car number 35, Todd Hazelwood. Matt Stone Racing entry. And where's Todd sitting at the moment? He's down in 23rd position. However, his middle sector on this very lap is the best we've seen so far. So this will jump him up. In fact, it does. 20 spots. He's up into 3rd. That's a nice number, a 1:06.97. So 2.5 minutes remaining. We may see a little happy hour phase here. Jumping back on board with Scott Pye looking over the other shoulder. So we spent some time looking over his right shoulder before as he grabs 6th gear on the run past the pit lane exit. There's a merge line down there, which is typically the braking queue, and Pye jumps to 2nd as we pick up Simona Di Silvestro, currently sitting in the Team Harvey Norman Nissan in 14th position. In fact, she's the best of the Nissans out there.
Spare a thought for Simona, who travelled back to Switzerland in between Winton and Darwin. Do you reckon you get a bigger polar opposite in terms of the climate and the things that she was doing? She went surfing in Switzerland and then ended up doing commentary with Formula E. So she's been in the cold and now in the warm of the top end. Simona comes up to 3rd. Very, very good job. A 6.86. So she's the fastest of the Nissans. So 2 Holdens, a Nissan, another 2 Holdens, and then the first of the Mustangs, Cam Waters and Scott McLaughlin. They're currently 6th and 7th.
So Fabian Coulthard suggesting that he's got an overrun going with the throttle here on the radio as well. He's currently sitting in 13th position. Mostert goes to the top on a 6.7 in the Super Cheap Mustang. So there's a bit of shuffling going on here. Mostert, Reynolds, Pye, Di Silvestro in 4th. Nice work. Hazelwood 6th. Waters and McLaughlin back in the garage, and we saw a shot of Scott getting out of the car. So whatever they want to alter with that car, or in terms of their time management, they've decided there's no point doing it with only a minute to run now in this session. This is a fine performance from Simona. So the good opening account, always good for the confidence early in the weekend if you can see a number that heartens you. There is McLaughlin in conversation with Ludo with his back to camera. Best performance for Simona here has been a 17th, and in fact to echo that number for qualifying a 17th as well. So this is her 3rd event at Hidden Valley Raceway. Shane van Gisbergen leaps up now with whatever the last set of changes were quite handsomely into 3rd spot. might be tyres as well. So his time in the final sector is the best that we've seen so far in the session. Inside 30 seconds now, practice 1, BetEasy Darwin Triple Crown, Hidden Valley Raceway. We're in the top end for our annual visit to the Northern Territory. Lee Holdsworth in the Barbagallo entry. He's now jumped up into 4th position. Quite a lot of dust on the road up there out of turn 14. Dry season here, so there'll be very little in the way of rain for a good 3 or 4 months or more here at this time of the year. And they had a pretty vicious wet season preceding. Rick Kelly off the road has done typically very well here at this racetrack. He's currently sitting in 17th position. He's done a 7.4. Nick Percat, lap record holder in the Dunlop entry.
Just in behind is Cam Waters, so Cam's got the toe. And he... Where's Percat? I can't find him there. 14th. So he and Slade are 13th and 14th. So their pace in the early part of this year, and we spoke a lot about the spring rule changes and having to run a linear spring, and it seemed to suit Brad Jones' cars very early in proceedings. Seems to have fallen away a little bit in terms of their overall lap speed right now. So Slade and Percat down in 14th and 15th. We saw D. Pasquale go a little bit better, and so did Will Davison. So they're 7th and 8th. There's Chaz Mostert giving Adam DeBore the rundown of all the characteristics of the super cheap Mustang.
Results now for practice number 1, BetEasy Darwin Triple Crown. Chaz Mostert, 6/100ths of a second faster than David Reynolds. Shane Van Gisbergen moves up into 3rd late in the session from Lee Holdsworth. Scott Pye, Simona Di Silvestro, best of the Nissans in 6th. Anton Di Pasquale, Will Davison, Todd Hazelwood, Cam Waters. Scott McLaughlin got out of the car with a couple of minutes remaining then. Jamie Whincup went off the road on at least one occasion down there at turn 5. LeBrock, Slade, Percat, Coulthard. We think that there was a problem with the throttle lagging on that car. Then Kelly, who went off the road. Golding, Winterbottom, Jones, Heimgartner, Courtney, Pipper, Jacobson and Jack Smith is our wildcard entry again this weekend, making it 25 cars. Andrew?
Chaz Mostert straight to the top of the time sheets at the end of the session there. Did you run a second set of tyres?
Yeah, we did. So it's kind of hard. These practices are hard to read into where you exactly are, but yeah, we've got some work to do with the car. So we'll just read on the balance. We're struggling a little bit out there, but overall it wasn't a bad hit out first. So I think the same guys will still be the guys to beat. Reynolds always super quick around here, so yeah, we've got a bit of work to do.
Always begs the question, when you fire a second set, does that mean you are searching for a little bit from that first set?
I think the plan for us is always run 2 sets. I mean, obviously you want a good run into the next practice session. It's, you know, with this knockout qualifying that we have now, it's basically a mini qualifying. So you can't just not know where you're at in this first session, because it'll just leave you blind for the second. So yeah, that's what we did, and hopefully, you know, we're thereabouts.
Before I let you go, I just want to do a quick forward check here, mate. I know you're a cool cat. Your forward temperature at the minute's about 22 degrees.
There's no brain in there.
Thanks, Jazz.
Cheers, boys.
Some pretty fancy shoes going on there for Scott McLaughlin this weekend, mate. Those are very, very cool. And also just getting a bit of ice into the core down. It's very important this weekend. Tell us about your boots.
Boots, well, it was an idea me and my helmet painter thought of. And then he's like, why don't you do your boots as well? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then the Freeze M&D auction for Fox Footy AFL 360 was on the weekend, over the week, for Neil Danaher and the M&D cause, and managed to raise $3,000 for him. So there's some lucky guy's going to have my stinky boots for $3,000.
Yeah, he's going to need to air them out, I would reckon, after the weekend. Hey, give us a bit of rundown on that session.
Not too bad. We did a race runs, and I unfortunately made a lock up into turn 1 there, so it was pretty big, and the flat spot was pretty big, so made a little change in the front that probably will affect my braking, so we'll go back there and find it a different way.
We were just sort of questioning if there was actually something on the road down there, because I think SVG was off there at the same time.
Yeah, I know. He was like going off as I was going off as well. So yeah, I don't think there's anything on the road. I think a bit of driver drama. You're just pushing, trying to get a bit of a headwind into 1 today, so you can go in pretty deep. But yeah, just too deep that time.
On the limits. All right, thanks, buddy. We'll go and catch up quickly. Just get an update with Fabian Coulthard, who reported on the radio, I think, a little bit of a throttle drama, mate. Tell us about that.
It was just very light in the early phase. And here, the temperature being so hot, you have to have that ultimate feel. And look, not making excuses, it just was an abnormality.
That's a hard word.
I know, nailed it though, eh?
Yeah. Nailed it.
Yeah, so yes, a little bit, felt a little bit foreign. So the boys will tune it up, maybe put another throttle spring on or something like that.
How much did it affect then the learning that you needed to do in that session?
Well, a little bit because I'm mid-corner with throttle on. That doesn't help. So I was complaining of understeer, but it makes sense why.
Thanks, Bob.
Cheers.
Simona Di Silvestro, 6th. Great start to the weekend, but you've said you've been frustrated not being able to translate the Friday throughout the weekend. What's the secret ingredient, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. We actually, trying a few different things, and the thing that's been missing is really the one lap pace, and so we need to work on that a little bit. It seems like today we started off pretty well, especially on one lap. Pretty happy on the one lap, and on the longer run, not so happy. So it's something we kind of can go into the weekend and have a pretty good idea. So I think that's really positive, and it's good, because we start to understand a bit what we need to do, especially with Gio. I've only been working with him since 2 events, so it's good to see that.
Always nice though to start the weekend with confidence, with a positive outlook, and hopefully carry that throughout.
Yeah, but tomorrow counts, so that's what I'm a bit worried. No, but I think it's good, because it feels pretty good. But definitely we can't get lazy now. We just really need to try to improve because everybody else down the pit lane is going to improve. So we just need to be on our toes and keep working at it.
Thanks, Simona.
Cool, thank you.
Dave Reynolds, there's something that you click with in this place, isn't there? You just told me that car rolled out of the truck really well and then you tuned it backwards, is that right?
Yeah, we rolled out pretty strong. Made a little change for that second run, and that was the best time we did, and then we come in, made a couple more changes and tuned it backwards. So yeah, we know what not to do now going forward, but that was a really good session to roll out and have strong pace straight away. It feels good, but yeah, like you said, I don't know. I just like driving this place. It's got good flow, good rhythm. It's not boring. It's fun.
And when you talk about that, there is an element of Dave Reynolds in your pace here, rather than just car. That section 6, 7, 8 across the back there. There's a lot of flow, a lot of commitment. You obviously love it.
Yeah, I like most of the track, but I've got to have a good car. Like I've been here in the past with average cars and haven't got good results. So, we're only as good as our machinery or our team, and the boys done a good job to get here and roll out pretty fast.
Thanks, Dave.
No worries, cheers, man.
Yeah, Davey Reynolds hit the nail on the head. They know what not to do for this afternoon. That's often the trick, isn't it? You come somewhere, you get on a path, and it'll be crunch time for practice 2 this afternoon, because that, as you mentioned a little earlier, Mark, will have a big bearing on how qualifying plays out today. It was great to see a smile on Simona Di Silvestro's face. We caught up with her yesterday. She says absolutely she has unfinished business in the category, and the pressure will be on this afternoon because, let's say that's P2. She'll be by her way through to Q2 tomorrow, and she hasn't done that yet.
Exactly, and her comment about wanting to get some one lap